Now we have discussed for quite a long time different aspects, different dimensions of Swami Vivekananda's personality. But I would like to focus on one central area that's very crucial and very relevant to our own times. If you observe the intellectual trend in Western world from 70s, 1970s, 80s onwards till our times, you find there's a trend to criticize religion and spirituality on the one hand, and also to accept the relevance and the importance of religion and spirituality on the other. The latter originated with the works of Jung and Adler. In fact, Jung was one of the foremost thinkers, in the area of psychiatry and psychology, who understood, who realized the need and relevance of religion and spirituality. Even if God doesn't exist, we need somebody like him so that people have peace of mind. They can go somewhere, they can go away from this world of senses. They want to run away from themselves and take refuge in some transcendental idea that will give them peace of mind. Now, as a result of this, as I said earlier, there are two trends. On the one hand, modern scientists, perhaps the most prominent among them in our own times is Richard Dawkins, a great humanist, but also an atheist. And there are great journalists also who passed away, Christopher Hitchens. Quite a few you find. I don't want to name many. Now, there are great humanists. They love humanity. They love the humanity. They want peace in this world. They have nothing actually against God or religion. But they ask the question, how do you reconcile these two contradictory pictures? How do you understand the incompatibility of belief in a compassionate, all-merciful God and a cruel world full of miseries, injustices? If God creates his world, and if God creates man and woman, of course, all human beings, why should there be so much of misery in this world? So there is no need to search for a transcendental origin for morality. They are satisfied with some kind of empirical interpretation of ethical philosophy. We can have an ethical philosophy here in this world, at the empirical plane, without much botheration about a transcendental authority who supervises, who creates his world, and then supervises his creation, and then divides his creation into two conflicting groups of believers and non-believers, promising heaven to believers and damning the non-believers with eternal damnation. So they believe there is no need to look for a transcendental authority for morality. We can do away with the very idea of God, religion, and spirituality. But remember, you cannot just ignore them. They are great humanists, very influential people. They respect great prophets of non-violence, some of whom were very, very religious-minded people, like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and others. Of course, they were religious people, but they accept that religion is all right if it is interpreted as pure humanism. They don't call it spiritual humanism. Now, look at Swami Vivekananda's contribution. It was actually Swami Vivekananda who interpreted religion as universal spiritual humanism for the first time in the history of the world. Just imagine the time when he arrived in America. In fact, the whole work, his whole mission, world mission started here, not in India. In India, he was concerned with the poverty, the disunity, the material squalor and filth and backwardness, social injustices, untouchability, casteism, and the quarrelsome nature the absolute incapacity to come together and work for a common cause. These were the problems that he noticed and thought seriously over them and tried to find a solution. Here in America, he started thinking along different lines. The world needs a religion, not denying or rejecting the organized religions, not at all. See, I can quote, we want to take the humanity to a level where neither the Bible, nor the Gita, nor the Quran exists, but beyond them all, still accepting, reconciling the teachings of all the great scriptures. So all religious founders, all organized religions should be accepted in their spiritual essence. But there is a higher religion, the religion of religion. The religion is capital R, of religions. What is this religion? Swamiji defined this as spirituality, which is not a monopoly of any single religious faith system in the world. In all religious traditions, if you go deeper, you find as its core essence this spiritual value. But somehow in course of time, people deviated. A person like Rousseau said, religions were all true when they were founded by the founders, but they degenerated in the hands of man. That's Rousseau. Rousseau was certainly not a conventional churchgoer. What I mean to say, Swamiji gave a new interpretation to religion, which welcomes believers and also non-believers, which welcomes theists and also atheists, which reconciles reason and science, which reconciles, harmonizes the modern and the traditional, the Occidental and the Oriental, the Eastern and Western, and again, which harmonizes the secular and the spiritual, forming a single integral whole. So it encompasses all the spiritual core teachings of all world religions, but still goes beyond all of them, which he termed as spirituality. Now he said religion is the manifestation of divinity already in man. Even if you don't accept divinity, because it has something to do with Upanishadic literature, which is after all some kind of a metaphysical spiritual philosophy. Still, divinity means a humanness, humanity. Now it goes beyond scientific humanism, socialist humanism. Even Romans had their own humanism, but it was confined to Roman citizens, the serfs and slaves who were brought from different parts of the Roman Empire, which extended from Hadrian Wall all the way to Jordan. They were not citizens. Humanism was not extended to them. It was confined to the Roman citizens. The Greeks had their own humanism. Scientific humanism, of course, goes beyond all this. But then, a scientist who says that there is no God just because he can't see God in front of him is as much of a fanatic as a most superstitious believer who says God is true, though he cannot see in front of him. So blind non-belief is as fanatical as blind superstition, blind belief. Scientism is as fanatical, as irrational as superstition. So that's why Swamiji said, religion and science can come together. So when he came to America, he found yesterday one of our own devotees in the presentation said, see, Christian Science. They accepted Swamiji, the Unitarians accepted Swamiji, and those who were under the influence of transcendentalist philosophy also accepted Swamiji. So wherever people could think in terms of broad-mindedness, universality, and humanistic impulse, could listen to Swamiji and accept him. Because from Swamiji, we can see as a gradual recovery of the universal spiritual religion, which is really not like any of the established religions, which confines itself within the four walls of a founder, a place of worship, a book, and a set of rituals, which goes beyond all this, looking upon the entire humanity, maybe the whole creation, as one spiritual fraternity, as one spiritual family. And this is the essence of spiritual metaphysics and spiritual ethics. So he says, the infinite oneness of the soul is the eternal sanction of all morality, all ethics, all good actions, which essentially is Advaita. Means the belief that the whole creation is an expression of the divine principle. God, as the divine principle, is the immanent reality residing in all beings, and that reality is also all-pervading, omnipresent. It's also transcendental. So no religion, there can be no such thing as a bad religion, an inferior religion, or a wrong religion. We are not traveling from error to truth, but from truth that's lower to truth that's higher. By lower, Swamiji means incomplete. So long as we belong to a particular religion and say that this religion alone is true, it is only partial truth. And as we spiritually evolve, our own understanding of God evolves, and as we become more spiritual, as we begin our inward pilgrimage towards our own true nature, and as we become more and more spiritually enlightened, our understanding of God also evolves, and we see Him everywhere, present everywhere. The whole universe becomes a temple. Every act becomes an act of worship. Every thought becomes an act of meditation, and the whole life becomes a spiritual sadhana. Now, can any atheist, radicalist, any agnostic deny this universal religion? You need not believe in God, but believe in humanity, in humanness, compassion. But not humanism confined to scientific, rational, or socialist humanism, because there are also conflicts are there. This humanism is built upon the spiritual unity, the spiritual oneness of not only human beings, but the whole creation. This was the new interpretation of religion which Swamiji gave, and he gave it here on this soil. And America was quite ready for that, because America was culturally, if you don't mind, to people you say old Europe, but still America is culturally an extension of Europe. And in Europe, true religion died with the advent of Saint Augustine, because Augustine emphasized sin and the dogmatic theological approach. Plotinus, Philo, and other Neoplatonist ideas practically were rejected, and for several centuries, independent thought was crushed. And then from Britain, humanist, empiricist, and from Germany, the idealists, Kant and Hegel, and in 19th century, Darwin, scientists like Darwin, and social thinkers like Marx and Engels, they all started challenging the foundations of any religious idea which divides mankind into believers and non-believers. Swamiji said, all religions contain this fundamental spiritual truth. We should all go back to those religions. So that it becomes a spiritual partnership. In a way, Swamiji inaugurated a dialogical approach in interfaith relationship, because there are three approaches basically. The exclusivistic approach, which emphasized that one religion is true and we must force it upon all others. The second approach was, the one religion is wrong, so we must completely surrender and borrow ideas from another religious tradition. The dialogical approach tells us that all religions are equally valid paths leading to the same goal. But we must take the spiritual essence of all religious faith systems. And the spiritual essence is the fundamental truth that the reality, the supreme consciousness, is the immanent reality within all of us. It is also the all-pervading reality. It is also the transcendental reality. These fundamental teachings could be found in all religious faith systems. If we go back to them and practice them, the world becomes a better world for all of us to live in. In fact, that becomes the foundation of interfaith harmony, interfaith fellowship, and any kind of healthy dialogue, exchange of ideas between different religious traditions and also cultural and philosophical traditions. And within a very short span of time, I have just given an outline. If I got anything to ask, I shall try, if possible, try to answer the questions. Thank you.